Welcome to the Right Brain Loves Left podcast, where we dive deep into the dynamic world of small business success. I'm your host, Regina Garay, and I'm thrilled to have you join us today. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Right Brain Loves Left podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. We met a while ago in a coffee chat. Somebody else introduced us to each other by email, and we had a coffee chat, and I loved chatting with her. So I thought she'd be a great guest here at the podcast. Everyone, please meet Sally Lotz. She is an author. Hi, Sally.
Hello.
She is an author, a writing coach, and a mentor as well. And she has a very, very interesting story. So Sally has a book called The Truth is a Lie. And she wrote a memoir about her personal challenges and growing up in a cult when she was young and how she escaped it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But this is what started her writing and what inspired her writing career. And so, Sally, if you're ready to dive in.
I'm ready.
And I'm going to give you her website just so you can find her at the beginning here now, sallylotz.com, SALLYLOTZ.com. And we'll also talk about it at the end of the episode. But Sally, how did these personal challenges get you going into your career, into writing and becoming a writing coach?
Well, it wasn't an overnight thing. It was kind of a long journey for me to get there. But I was always a creative person as a child. So I actually write fiction. But writing helped me through some therapy. Reading books is what helped me to understand my past and how to heal. Reading books, I've always read books, especially nonfiction. Even as a child, I would just suck them up because I always wanted to learn more and understand the world around me more and understand other people's points of view. So that's what I grew up to do.
And you're absolutely right, because I am an avid reader. I just inhale books, and
Yeah.
it's been so key in knowing about different cultures, seeing different viewpoints. It's a wonderful way to get to know the world
Mm-hmm.
within.
Yep, both fiction and nonfiction, but mostly in nonfiction. I've read a lot, especially as a
Really?
child. Especially as a child, yeah. And some books I'll read a couple times.
Okay, because normally when we grow up, we read fiction, so that's incredible.
Well, there's some really good nonfiction books out there that the ones I can think of off the top of my head are the Jen Sincero's Badass series, all about reclaiming and boosting your life. They're all nonfiction, and I listen to them and read them.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll have to look those up. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. So I know that you're a writing coach and you coach both on memoirs and also on fiction books because you write young adult, I think you told me.
Yeah, I write for children, which goes all the way up to young adults. Yes.
Okay.
And my specialty is working with people on either their books for their businesses or a memoir, but kind of a hybrid type memoir, something that gives back in some sort of way.
Okay. And so let's dive into the small business owner. So let's say a small business owner would like to explore writing a book. How does that help their business or branding?
Okay, first I'm going to say it's not for everyone. Okay, so because you hear it and you see it on LinkedIn and people are talking about it, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the tool for your business. I don't want to sell something to somebody that I know is not going to help them. But if you have a business where where you're in front of people a lot and you're talking and you're sharing, a book will help you in conveying your message, and it will get it in front of more people because they will in turn share it. If you have a method or a practice that you do that's going to help other people, like you could be their mentor, but you could put it in a book format.
Mhm.
That is very helpful. One of my first clients, she's a yoga meditation specialist for women, for moms, and she used her book to share her philosophy and how she works with moms in general.
Mhm.
So lots of different ways that your book can help. But you just have to remember, um, write for who you need to write for your audience, don't write for the entire world.
And that's so key because when you think about all the different ways that you could impact your business, of course, thinking, oh, I'm going to write a book, it takes a lot of energy and a lot of time. And when you work with somebody, well, first of all, how can they determine, if you don't mind my asking it, how do they determine, yes, writing is a book for me, or no, it's not for me? How does
Well, I would say if your business is an accounting business and you're just out there helping people pay their bills, probably not a book for you.
Okay, okay.
Unless you have a very niche audience who really loves accounting and wants to know what you're doing. Probably not for you. If you are talking to a lot of people and you are sharing your story with a lot of people and you are wanting to impact people's lives with your business,
Mhm.
definitely a book is a wonderful idea.
Okay, okay. And what are some common myths that you find yourself debunking about writing a book with your clients?
The first one is I'm going to write my book and put it on Amazon. Not always the way to go. The second one is it takes forever and I'm not a writer. I don't know how to do it. The third one is it costs a lot of money. Those are my top three.
Okay, okay.
My top three.
They're all very valid because I'm like, mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So, all right. Tell me about a typical day for you as a writing coach. And second to that, how do you balance your own writing with being a coach?
Well, my day starts early because that's my creative time. So that's when I get up and I do my writing in the morning.
Okay.
I'm currently editing a book with my agent right now. So I get up and I work on that. Then I do some correspondence and, like check my emails and things like that. And then some form of exercise. And then I meet
Gotta
with
get
my
moving.
clients. I meet with clients. I have, I only work with a few a month. So they get a lot of my time. I'm either reading their work or I'm talking to them, sending them emails, checking in. And I'm also connecting a lot with other people in my industry because that helps me help my clients when they're done with me. I help them through the rest of the process of editing, publishing, whatever it is they need. So that's
It's
about
interesting.
it.
I didn't even think about it, but it's interesting that you are only able to take just a few clients per month because you were actively reading their work, and we all, and they don't have audiobooks that you can just read on the way. You're literally,
No, they're working on, some people are working in Google Docs, some people are working in Microsoft Word. So some people are writing on their phones.
yeah.
So yeah, I read and as we're going because I want to help them
Become
become
better.
better at what they're doing.
How do you keep them motivated and accountable when you're working?
Yeah, my process is a pretty fast one. It's a 30, 60, or 90 days.
Oh my goodness. So I'm
So
thinking like
because
a year or two.
no, 30, 60, or 90 days because writing needs to be done in a season when you are in that space mentally, emotionally, and believe it or not, you might not be creative, but you're in the creative space. If you keep picking up your work and putting it down, picking it up and putting it down, you are lapsing in and out of that space and you're in a different time meant every time.
Mhm.
And then you spend hours getting back into the place where you were before and trying to match it. So, especially for a business owner, you want to get your book done because you want it for people. And it's not
Sure.
as hard as it sounds because I work with my clients developing, there's 4 areas we work on before they start writing and then they write. So I've had clients in each length, 30, 60, and 90. So it just depends on their time, how much time they have.
That's
So
wow.
keeping them motivated is, hey, I only have 30 days to do this. I got to do it.
Let's get this done.
So they're already being held accountable. Motivation comes with when you paid me, and I'm going to be knocking on your door all the time going, hey, what's your word count? How many words did you write? So, I mean, that goes along with it a lot. I think if you spread it out for years, of course, your motivation is going to be gone because you're tired of working on it. You don't remember why you started.
Mm.
And it's easy to put down, oh, I can do it next week. I can do it next week, right? So doing it in that short span of time locks you in all those areas I said. Emotional, mental, creative, and your motivation.
And I love that because my business is focused around goals and
Mm-hmm.
I work in 3-month increments,
Mm-hmm.
even just in terms of mastermind groups. And so it's incredibly not only great to have accountability, but to also have, make sure that this idea is for you. And when it's for you, prioritize that idea and get it done. And then that
Mm-hmm.
way you're like, and I love that you guide people through the different times because some people might come with a book already and some people might like, I have an idea.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to, put it all together. And you kind of balance and kind of do both.
Yeah, I really help them with their strategy. I help them discover who their reader is. I help them discover how they want to publish. And I have had some people who I have even said, this book is not something that you're going to be able to handle. Let's get you a ghostwriter. And they're like, I'd never thought of that. And so
Wow.
I've had 2 clients that I've had them get a ghostwriter because their books were so big. They were bigger than they imagined, and it was way out of their, wheelhouse to write it. And they are so excited, both of them. So
And it was funny because I was going to ask you how you provide feedback to your clients, because I imagine that if they saw red ink all over the place, that's how I imagine
yeah.
things to be. So,
Well, I do tell them up front that I am not going to give them, I am going to give them feedback that is honest, and they have to be able to take it because it's writing. And yes, there might be some, create there, it's writing, but it also has to be reach your audience. And I give really good feedback. I'll say, this is really good. I like what you're doing. Keep working on this. But you use this phrase, I'm thinking, I saw, I said, you use that 150 times on 5 pages. And they're like, I did.
yeah.
I said, yes. So that tells me that you're not writing. It means you're telling us what you're thinking. And you're like, oh, I never understood that. So moving forward, they can stop and think about what they're writing and stop using those phrases. So I do it gently. I am not an editor and I'm not really teaching anybody how to write, but I teach you how to lay out this wonderful framework to get your story, your book, to the audience and tell it in a way that your audience can relate to it and
Mhm.
will take away from it and do what they need to do. So and because you don't
Yeah.
want your audience bored.
Yeah. And I also like I'm just going to say, I love your vibe, because you seem like you would be very conscious of their feelings and what they're putting out there, but also you'd be very stern and say, this is kind of the direction you need to
Yeah.
go in. So you've got a good balance there.
That I've been
Yeah.
writing for a long time, and I've been in a lot of groups with other writers where we give each other valued criticism. And I've had a few people cry at criticism, and it's like, it's kind of, you have to be able to take it because if you're going to put yourself out there, right,
Mhm.
and be vulnerable and tell your story and share, you have to be willing to listen to what people like me who are reading it are thinking so that you can be better and make it better.
So let's say a small business owner says, you know what, I'm not sure about a small business book for me, but I have an interesting story and I'd
Mhm.
rather write a memoir instead. Is that okay as well? as a small.
That's okay. But what I will always ask is, so what's your story? Why do you want to write a memoir? Is it a compelling enough story to grab the audience? Because like I said earlier, I don't want you to write a business book if it's not going to help anybody. But I also want you to stop and think about your memoir. And some people aren't always willing to go deep enough to make that compelling story. And I start asking questions and poking, and they're like, oh yeah, I can do that. I have a really compelling story. Let me tell you, you know.
So if they are writing a memoir, what are the key elements they should focus on to make sure that that story connects with readers?
The biggest element is there needs to be some sort of conflict and some sort of resolution. That goes with any book. So if you want to tell a book about where your grandparents came from and how they got here and how it changed your life, that's great. But you still have to have all that conflict, and you have to be willing to be vulnerable and go deep and really and go beneath the surface, because that's what connects a reader to what you're writing. They see themselves in the pages, or like we talked about earlier, you learn something new about a new culture, or you learn something new about somebody you didn't know before. But that all goes with, you got to be willing to go into those dark places.
Yeah, and it's I'm completely blanking now on her name. I'm gonna find the first, but I resisted bios, and I read a lot, but I resisted bios. And then I heard a podcast. Why is her name not coming to me? But the name of her book is Bravey. And she's an Olympic runner.
Okay.
She's Greek. Oh, goodness gracious. I can't believe I'm
I
blanking.
can picture the book, but I can't remember her name either.
And
Yeah.
And so I read it, and I was blown away. I was like, wow, where have I been not reading bios and biographies and memoirs? I am not an Olympic runner, and I have not had her experiences, but she did pull me in, and there was a lot of her experience that I was like, oh my goodness. So yeah.
There's a lot of really interesting stories. People tell me all the time, because they know I'm a writer, oh, I want to write a book. And I ask them, what's your story about? I had a lady tell me I had a close encounter with a serial killer. And she was like, I was almost his first victim. I go, well, why don't you write that? That's a good story.
Yes.
So, I mean, it doesn't have to be that that doesn't have to be that much.
Yeah.
Like I said, sometimes you have the idea to tell a story, and maybe it's not even about you. Maybe it's about your grandmother, and you might have to tell her story, or your grandfather. It might be somebody else's story that you really want to tell, and that's okay too. I read a lot of biographies as a kid. Living in a house where I wasn't really allowed to do many things, because I grew up in that cult. For some reason, I could read biographies. I had to sneak a lot of them, but that's mostly what I read. And I learned about how different people overcame different situations. So you might even consider writing a biography in the children's field. I teach my clients, they may come in with one thing, and I open up the doors for them to other areas that they never thought about, because of the myths, which we talked about earlier.
Yes.
They have the misconceptions and the ideas that people have about publishing or writing. And it's like the doors get wide open for them.
And you blow their minds, because they don't realize the stories they have might be the story they need to tell. So, okay, so let's go into, you just touched upon it, because I did want to talk about your memoir, that you grew up in a cult. Now, you wrote a memoir called The Truth is a Lie, which is on my reading list. Tell me a little bit about, no, I'm serious.
You're going to pick it up and not put it down. We talked earlier. Yeah, you'll read it in one sitting.
Yeah.
So my memoir is a little bit of a different way to tell a memoir, because I write for children, which goes up to young adult, and they don't necessarily read memoirs unless you're famous. And so I told my story. This goes with thinking outside of the box, but still understanding my reader. I wrote it as fact-based fiction. So that's another way to tell your story, is to fictionalize it. And I told my story of growing up in this cult and how I was kicked out at the age of 15. I condensed quite a few of the years down into a 3-month period. And it gives a very big insight into this cult that's still very much around today. And the overall message is the promise and hope and the kindness of the other people in my life who didn't know that their little tiny acts of kindness affected me greatly. Because I was told the outside world, those who weren't in this cult, the truth, were the devil. And so anybody who was nice to me kind of opened up my eyes and made me think outside of this world that I was living in. So that I wrote that book because I wanted to build awareness. And so that other people could understand you don't just join a cult. I didn't choose it, my mother did, but what it's really like. It's not you're living in a compound in the woods. It's not your sister wives kind of thing. And I get a lot of 5 stars, people saying, I never knew that this is what a cult really was.
Yeah, because you think they're out in the woods in the forest.
Yep.
They grow their own vegetables. This is kind of what you have.
They're not shaving their armpits. They're out, worshiping the moon, and they have a guy. Yeah. You're living in South America somewhere. Yeah. Yeah.
And so where can we purchase The Truth Is a Lie?
You can get The Truth Is a Lie on Amazon. I have it in Kindle and paperback. Or if you go to my website, sallylotz.com, I have the books there. You can order an autographed copy if you want to. But I have the link there to get one.
Wonderful. Okay. And tell me about future books or future projects or programs that you have available. What's exciting in your life?
Oh, everything's exciting. I am working on a new project with my agent right now. So I'm writing a middle grade book, which is junior high age, which takes place during Y2K. So if you like M. Night Shyamalan and Stephen King and mix them together, that's what I'm writing.
I like it.
I'm working with a couple of clients right now who have the really great stories, and I can't wait for them to get finished and get out there. And I'm doing some master classes. I'm doing a lot of things. So, and I'm always looking to help.
Oh, I can imagine you'd be very helpful and have a lot of experience and guidance to share.
Yeah, I do want to say, and I just did a post on LinkedIn about this, I'm a fiction writer, but writing a book for your business and fiction writing are the same thing. It's just the terminology I use is different, but it's the same formatting. It's the same thing. I change it to sound more business-like because that makes the business people feel comfortable, but they don't know it is that they're actually writing a book. So
I love it because it is a daunting, but you can get it done in 30, 60, 90 days, which is really wonderful.
Yeah.
And when you get it done in that and you have it out there, it only helps your business, whether you're looking for public speaking, opportunities, or whether, it's just some additional income, or you really want people to understand your methodology before they work with you one-on-one. It's just a wonderful, I think, aspect.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right, Sally, please let everybody know where they can find you other than your website. What are your primary social media accounts or anything you'd like to share?
I'm mostly on LinkedIn, and it's under my name, Sally Lotz. You can find me over on Instagram, wrong account. It's Sally with a J in the middle, Lotz. Mostly my business stuff is on LinkedIn, and my fictionalized stuff is over on Instagram.
Great. I look forward to following you there.
Okay.
Sally, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast and giving us such valuable advice, and also sharing your story as well.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right, everyone, and we will see you soon. Thank you again, Sally.
You're welcome.